what do you want to be said at your funeral?
Yeah.
And so I aspire to be the kind of man that, particularly my children, that even when I'm gone, they would say, God, I wish you knew him. I wish you'd met him. I wish you knew my dad. He was...
And whatever they would say.
He was so funny. He was so...
And that could mean a number of things. Yeah.
And he loved so hard that I didn't want for anything.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoe's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson hanging out with the happy SJ Jennings. And,
Why the judgment of my attitude every time? You do it just to get a reaction out of me. I know you do.
There it is.
Yeah. And it works every time.
The joyful.
It works every time.
the courageous. The handsome.
Yeah.
The handsome.
The
we were
guy
talking
with a
about
squirrel on his
We were
face.
talking about beards. Yeah, a little bit. I'm trying. We'll see what happens.
That's still gray. It's not all white. There's still some dark in there too. I may just shave it.
That I would pay for that.
I don't think you've ever seen me.
No, you know what? We met. You were a goatee guy, so I've seen it without.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Was I?
Yep. That was almost 20 years ago.
Jeez.
20-ish years ago. We were young.
Once.
And here we are in this series.
Goatee.
In this series about the Good Man series, stepping into our second episode, and we thought it'd be really worth the time to explore some of the foundational biblical passages about this. I was so pleasantly surprised with
how much good is in the Bible,
how much goodness about being good men, and what it has to say, because we have been taught for so many years, man, for most of our lives, that we're sinners. Jeremiah 17, the heart is desperately wicked.
Everybody likes to go to that one, but then if you go to 24 in Jeremiah, God talks about giving a new heart.
Ezekiel,
and Ezekiel does the same thing. 35, I think.
Yeah.
Or 36. But
so that I think inviting
it's just not true.
Well, it's not that we don't sin, and
it's not the end of it all, though.
No. There was something. I think it was Eldridge who introduced me to that idea that before there was original sin, there was original glory. Yeah. And we'll look in a little bit. You go back to Genesis. After he creates his image bearers, it was very good. Mm-hmm. We were very good. Mm-hmm. It was very good. Kind of the crescendo of it all. Mm-hmm. And so being able to explore some of that in this episode, I think will be really, really helpful. And I always, before we take the break, I would say, growing up in athletics, there was a lot of motivational strategy through condemnation. I mean, it's you can be, that was just kind of through the 80s and 90s, and I think it's still present. And I saw a clip of Rick Pitino in his locker room with it. It was horrible.
Traumatizing.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And yet, this is who you're supposed to follow in, out of the locker room and into battle.
Yeah.
And I know he's a legendary coach in many, many ways, but dude,
that is man.
there's a way.
Seen it.
There's a way to.
Brady had won 2 Super Bowls. There's a clip of Belichick going, "Come on, Brady, what are you doing?" You know what I mean? Like,
well, you can sure piss some guys off and make them angry, and they'll try to prove you wrong. That's that strategy.
Yeah.
But man, in this series, what if we get a chance to show that God was right in the way that He designed us as image bearers to be good, to overcome. Here's Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good.
Right.
You know, and then the one that we shared last week, Matthew 12 and Luke 6. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his wicked heart. No.
It doesn't make sense, man.
So it's a very, very, very powerful invitation, I think, that the Good Man series is offering. And I think through those sessions and episodes that are in the Good Man series, we want to just call up some of the passages that motivated and encouraged us to create it.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things that I love about the title of the Good Man series and the emphasis on the good man is that and I think what you're saying is that our culture tries to make us good men. And what we're proposing is that we already are. And what we're trying to offer is, how do we bring that up and out of you and erase the things that have convinced you that's not true, and undo the ties and the lies that bind you to an identity that isn't yours. Yeah. You were created good. Right. And it's in there, in you.
It's in there. Yeah. So let's take a break, and then we'll jump back in, because there's what you just said has, brings a couple things that I want to explore as we step into the passages.
Let's
explore more. So, I think we're going to run for a little while, just the Good Man series clips, either trailers or excerpts and stuff. So we're going to take a break.
Check it out.
And this is our sponsor for this series. So check this out. Men, however you arrived at the Good Man series, curious, tired, skeptical, or even hopeful, you are welcome here. This journey, it starts with an invitation to slow down, an invitation to tell your story, and most of all, an invitation to listen. Listen for what God wants to reveal. At Zoe, we believe every man is asking the question, am I a good man? And we also believe that there is real goodness in men, placed in your heart by God, and it's worth fighting for. As you watch these sessions, bring your honesty, bring your courage, bring your whole story. God has been preparing for your arrival, and He's ready to meet you here. Welcome to the Good Man series. All right. So the Good Man series is available now.
Yeah, go to thegoodmanseries.com and you just create a little login. It takes you about 10 seconds, and then you have access to all of the video content. Yep. You can download it. You can stream it. It's there for you to use. There's leader guides there.
PDFs of leaders guides.
Yeah, man. You can do it as a weekly small group. You can do it as a weekend getaway. Yeah. We just want you to have it and take it and run. And there's journals available. Definitely the journal augments the experience. You want to pick one of those up there. Yeah. We made them as cheap as we could.
Yep.
As inexpensive as we could.
And the Right Now Media platform too is a really great platform to find the Good Man series, so that you can walk with men in your church.
Yeah, that's coming soon
in
no
that
doubt.
space as well. So let's go back to the passages. You said that there's this goodness about us.
Right.
And
so what it was kind of like towards the end of the last episode, we talked about, we're not trying to convince you that you can become this new thing, this new creation. No, what we're hopeful for is to uncover
Yeah.
the good man you've been all along
Yeah.
and help you see who that is
Yeah.
and your identity found in God.
Yeah. Why it's so muddy, murky,
Mm-hmm.
and challenging has so much to do with the messages that we've heard and the experiences that we've had.
Things we've been put on
That-
have been put on us.
Yeah.
you
And
know.
so
Yeah.
that's where the Good Man series, I think, gives a man a good chance, a fighting chance to overcome some of these things that have happened to them and the lies that came with them.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start to sort some of that out and you see how this works, then the exchange program becomes a significant invitation that now that you see it, you can turn that in.
Right. I can wait. I don't have to think
yeah.
that way anymore. I don't have to be that way anymore.
What your stepdad told you for 10 years that you're an idiot,
Yeah.
or what your mom said that, was just diminishing, or what are you doing? I can't believe you.
Oh man.
I mean,
I would never do something like that. I mean,
that's Tom's
story. I would never say something like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a
Golly.
lot of things that
He was
have
like 8 when that happened.
those things have conditioned us to think. And when I say think, let me say the word I really want to say: believe. Have invited, encouraged, or even forced us to believe very negative things. Like I was telling you about the coaches, and some of the teachers I had. When you have experienced that kind of belittling or diminishment, or just
Shame.
disdain and shame and disappointment
Mm-hmm.
from an authority figure, it either, most men respond in one of two ways. Well, I'll show you, and I'll prove you wrong, which is kind of that motivational tactic. Or I don't need this. I'm out of here. I didn't want to play anyway.
Yeah, Gary's story. I'll never play tennis again.
Whitewater rafting.
Yeah,
whatever.
It was basketball.
Doesn't
I don't
go
need to
well.
go back on the basketball
It doesn't
court.
go well. It communicates.
Yeah.
Not just that you aren't good enough or you can't right now. It's that it's deeper. It's a deeper sense of shame. So helping men in their 20s or in their 60s or 70s deal with this stuff, even for the first time, I'm very excited, very, very hopeful that the Good Man series can give men an alternative. I think some of the best coaches in the professional ranks that have come up in the last 10 years have been these coaches that have been more good father figures. They've it's not that they aren't motivating and passionate, and get a little loud, but they seem to be loving their players rather than trying to control.
My guy Mike Vrabel with the Patriots, bro.
Yeah.
Every game he was outside the locker room until every last player comes in.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Wrexham series?
It's on my list. I haven't watched it.
It's so interesting. Have you seen it, Caleb? The Wrexham
that's the one that
soccer.
Ryan Reynolds bought it.
Yeah, they bought this team and have advanced through the different tiers of
they got elevated
football.
to instead of relegated, they got elevated.
Yes. And their coach, I saw it the other an episode. He yells and drops some F-bombs and all kinds of other stuff. But he calls him his son. He calls him my son. He calls him my son over and over and over again. I thought, that is so interesting. He definitely reserves the rights to what the blah, blah. So he's got that dichotomy.
I wonder if
almost.
that's a UK thing.
I don't know.
But it's interesting.
Bloody.
Yeah.
But I still, I think I didn't have coaches that viewed me like that or that spoke to me
fathering
like that. No.
But I would say some men might consider that fathering because that's what their fathers did.
Maybe.
But it's not fathering that's again, bringing it back to the point, like what you've experienced as your identity and what people have said about you and about who you are, it's not necessarily true.
Yeah. Well, that if you can get into the reality, though, yes, I love all that. But the difference that we're talking about, and I want to just put an exclamation on it with this. I believe in you.
Oh, gosh.
That's why I recruited you. Come on, we can do this. You're better than that. You're better than what you did today. You're better than
Mm-hmm.
that's not diminishing. That's inviting. Versus who recruited you? How did you even get on this team?
Yeah.
I mean that, and I think a lot of men find themselves on the masculine team
Mm-hmm.
with far more echoes of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing it. And I don't have the support. I feel like I'm on my own. And that is one of those markers in so many men's lives that they have yet to recover from. You are on your own.
It's funny, you just brought me back to a memory I have not thought of in a long time. So I was sophomore or junior year in high school, and I was wrapped up in a bunch of other activities, and so had not studied for a big chemistry test that was coming up. It was probably junior year if it was chemistry. So I was there at the school late for a rehearsal for a play that I was a part of, and I broke into the chemistry lab looking for the test and got busted. And so I had to serve a week of internal in-school suspension, which is basically you sit and you do homework for the whole school day in one place. It's basically detention
Yeah.
during the school day.
Solitary.
So, yeah,
or
pretty much. Well, no,
there's
there were
some
10
other
or 12
guys.
other reprobates in
That's
there.
That's the Breakfast Club.
It was.
That's funny.
But I remember, I'm trying to remember which teacher it was. It was a dude. And he said when I showed up for school suspension, he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I got busted. I was trying to cheat, steal a test." He's like, "What are you talking about? That's not who you are."
Wow. That's a great lecture.
Yeah.
That's a great talk.
What are you doing?
To be
Like-
talked to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so the invitation up, and I think there's scriptures that really that invite us to that,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, there's scriptures about sin and sinning and sinners but there's a kind of a demeaning tone that comes to that. So I've never understood when, if that's my identity of a sinner, I'm a sinner, and then I sin, well, what's the big deal?
That's my identity.
I'm just doing what you said I am.
Mm-hmm.
And logically, I think, no, to your point earlier, no, you are a good man. That wasn't good. That wasn't a good decision. That wasn't that wasn't good. What happened either to you or what you did, that wasn't good. But and here's the contrast, and that's not who you are.
Yeah.
Like your teacher. Mm-hmm. That's not who you are. You're better than that. We all love, the Sylvester Stallone talk.
I used to hold you right there.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the best kid ever.
Yeah.
And you grew up, but that speech,
people push you around.
That speech is a very powerful invitation.
Mm-hmm. It's very loving.
Invitation up, and it's part of what we want for the series. So I really want to just hit a couple of these passages and talk about, talk about the invitation to be a good man.
And it's interesting too, just as I'm reading one here, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Psalm 37:23. This is not an attempt to put pressure on you to perform.
Just
to
the
your
opposite,
point.
to relieve pressure.
That's right. And the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. I mean, I want God to delight in me because I know he does.
Yeah.
Right. So again, if I feel like God's not delighting in me, what's the problem? Yeah. Is it because he doesn't?
Or is that what's been programmed?
Or is that what I'm believing?
Has that been programmed
because of
into me?
What I've done, it's a constant battle. There's no doubt. We are to always be on guard.
Yeah.
Right. And you see it throughout Scripture as well. Like, be alert.
Mm-hmm.
be on guard, stay awake, be courageous, like all these things. You mentioned that we were in Nebraska a couple weekends ago. And so it is a constant battle, but if you're fighting from a position of knowing that you are a good man, and that's you're a good man because that's how God created you, it can change things. It's
Yeah.
the Kingdom of Heaven clip. Our friend Christopher just watched that movie a couple days ago for the first time, by the way. I can't wait to talk to him in
Oh, that
person
sounds
about it.
great.
And he brought up, man, there's this great scene. We ought to use it at the encounter weekend where everyone gets out on their knees, where no matter what their lineage is, and he knights them all. And someone says, do you think it really makes a difference if someone knows they're a knight? And absolutely it does.
Yeah.
And so if you know you're a good man and that's your identity, it can make a difference in just how you walk through the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. And I think this, to be more overt with the concept, this is what God is saying about you and over you and inviting you to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is not being a good man and then presenting
That you've earned it
report
somehow.
card.
Yeah. No.
For
Thank you. Yes.
validation.
Thank you for making it more overt. That's what I was trying to say.
And I didn't know that. I mean, I did not know that. The more
Well,
and
we're
more
told
I know. So
that's true.
the utter relief
Oh,
of
yeah.
I see you, right? This is the questions.
Yep.
Do you see me, and do you love what you see? Do you want to be with me, right? Those fundamental questions of every image bearer at every age. And when the answer from God is, I do, and I love what I see,
I
and
made
I do
you.
want to be with you.
Yes.
Now, we got to work on a couple things.
Yeah.
That's
So let's go do
understandable.
it.
And I want to show you where some of these things are coming from that are getting in the way of you being free,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way we are intended to be, to participate, to be in relationship with God and others. And that's what's also always being threatened or thwarted.
Mm.
And so I think these concepts biblically are so helpful when a man starts to see that, right? There's the invitation. You mean I can be that?
I can't not think of the pool at Bethsaida.
Yeah. Oh, from The Chosen recently? I mean, couple seasons ago.
Do you want to
Will you
be well? And it's his faith that has healed him.
Yeah.
But how many of us are physically, we're not looking for physical healing necessarily. Many of us may be, but what we're talking about is in your heart.
Yeah, emotional, mental.
And so if Jesus
soul.
is standing before you saying, you are a good man, you have it in you to be a good man. Do you want to be well? Do you want to be free from the things that are binding you, that are keeping you from walking this way? Just imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if goodness is something that could come from you or flow through you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a man that that wouldn't pay for it, if he could. I mean, we subscribe and we pay for a lot of things to improve our health, to improve our well-being, and I'm not sure that what God's offering has been exhausted in terms of an option to overcome some of the bad habits and become an agent, an apprentice, an agent of good and goodness. And so when I think about, this is one of the verses we want so badly to hear, Matthew 25. His master replied, well done, good and faithful. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Well done, good and faithful son. Well done, good and faithful image bearer. Well done. I'm doing my own amplified version here, but well done, good and faithful. Those are qualities that we all long for.
What would be the corrupted way of saying that? Like if you're still in that I've got to earn it, I'll show you mindset. It would be Yeah, good job. I mean, I guess good job. You could have done better a little bit over here and
Yeah,
there, and but you passed.
yeah,
I mean,
you barely
work
made it.
harder next time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you barely
yeah.
made it.
I mean, it sounds so crazy
Yeah, it's it's
to
it's
live
it's
under
it's
that
it's very
system. It doesn't
difficult.
make
It's
sense.
very difficult to even contrast.
Right.
One of the stories that I want to tell. So this was before I knew, SJ, that you could hear God's voice in a variety of forms. This was almost 30 years ago. So I'm in my early 30s at the time.
So you had heard of the concept, but it had never happened for you.
Not
Is that what you're
much,
saying?
not
Or that
much.
not that you recognized?
Yes, it was going to have to be kind of over the top or exaggerated or
Yeah.
just something.
The clouds will have to part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit of voltage,
Yeah.
that happened, and so and again, I had some problems with my perception of what
Mm-hmm.
God was like, and so I really wasn't sure I wanted him to talk to me because I didn't think it would be good. So back to this last
Or
passage.
that you would be good enough.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so this last passage on our list I want to bring up. I was working in a big national ministry and working in summers with athletes from around the country. We had 7 weeks of camp at Colorado State University, a beautiful place to be in the summer. But athletes would come around from around the country in the different ministries with Athletes in Action Campus Crusade that they were a part of. So I was on staff at the time, and I was given the invitation and the responsibility to work in a curriculum, work in the series of sessions that these athletes would experience. And there was already some tracks to run on in a direction, but I had a lot of freedom to kind of move in that. And one of the characters that I began to explore in the book of Acts was this man named Barnabas.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a ton of passages. As a matter of fact, in the book of Acts, it's Barnabas and Paul, Barnabas and Saul, Barnabas and Paul.
Kind of buttonhead some, and
Well, they're actually traveling in. It was Barnabas who vouched for Saul's conversion.
Yes. Yeah.
So they become a pair,
Right.
that is on the first mission.
Who then go their separate ways.
Yeah, on the first
eventually.
later
Yeah.
they break up over John Mark,
Mhm.
but the first missionary journey, it really is Barnabas who not only vouches for Paul's conversion, but Barnabas who then takes Paul and they go and they have what is the first missionary journey in the book of Acts. And so I love this passage, Acts 11, and I think it's Acts 8 is Saul's conversion, road of Damascus kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
And you don't, when you get from one chapter to the next, you don't always realize it was 14 years
Right.
between 9 and 10.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's relevant. It
Mhm.
wasn't the next day.
Right.
But nonetheless, their friendship and they began to move together. So here's this passage out of Acts 11:24. For Barnabas was a good man. Acts 11.
Mhm.
I love that. Just that. I mean, you can stop right there. I'm going to keep going. For Barnabas was a good man. And here's the Amplified. Privately and publicly, his godly character benefited both himself and others. That's the benefit of a good man.
Absolutely.
There's benefit, right?
Yep.
There's not
To himself and others.
That's different than consequences, right?
Right.
Of what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Well, the consequences of trying to steal this test got me landed in here.
Yeah.
But this is there's such a benefit. The kingdom and the way it works, goodness, right? It has an effect on others, and a benefit to the one who chooses well.
Mm-hmm.
To be kind and strong.
Yeah.
There's so many
back
things
to
that fit
Micah
under
6. Do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with your God. I mean,
Pretty
Yeah.
good little list
Uh-huh.
of
Uh-huh.
qualities of character that a good man aspires to.
Yep.
And this is one of the questions that I want to, because one of the questions in I think it's the second episode is, what kind of man do you aspire to be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so hold that, and we can answer that in a minute. But Barnabas, Micah, I mean, this is the kind of man I aspire to be. So I remember where I was. I was sitting in my truck in a quiet somewhere parking lot corner, looking at some of this Acts and Barnabas, realizing the part Barnabas played, and it began. I resonated with it, and then what I heard in the truck, in my heart, I'm not sure it came over the speakers and the sound system, but the sound system of my heart, what I heard God say is, "You're my Barnabas."
Mm-hmm.
So much that I was like, "What? You're my Barnabas. That's why you love this, because it's resonating with you because you're my Barnabas."
Mm-hmm.
And I was so happy he called me that. So happy that he invited me to see myself how he sees me. Gets
Yeah.
me warm right now.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful and so powerful, and it did something to me, right? And it was an invitation, right, that Barnabas was a good man. And what
Benefiting himself and others
and you
with
know who
his
benefited
character.
greatly? Paul.
Uh-huh.
To have a man of character like Barnabas vouch for you and say, I'll go on tour with you.
Yeah.
I'll move with you. And in the scriptures, those first cities, it was Barnabas and Paul, Barnabas and Paul, Barnabas and Paul. I think it's in the second missionary journey, it became Paul and Barnabas.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, I'm not sure there's headlining going on, but I just noticed they swap places. You know, Paul was gifted. One of the Greek communities saw Barnabas as Zeus. And I think Paul, I'm trying to remember who they identified Paul with now. I missed it. It just left me. Apollos. Apollo. Yeah, it's just, so the qualities that they had. Barnabas was a good man, privately and publicly. His godly character benefited both himself and others. And he was full of the Holy Spirit and full of faith in Jesus the Messiah, through whom believers have everlasting life. Here's a man who opened doors for people. Here's a man who left things better than when he found them. Here's a man who they were not sure that they could believe that Saul of Tarsus had been genuinely converted.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was killing them.
Right. Right.
Not using that in the metaphor of "you're killing me."
No. That's not "you're killing me," Smalls.
No,
he was holding people's coats as they were stoning
Stephen's
others.
stoning in Acts 3, I think it's 3. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He was a sheriff of Nottingham. He was policing the first century believers and trying to extinguish what in his mind was this great heresy, the following and the followers of Jesus of Nazareth. And then he encounters Jesus, you know. So anyway, love. So this passage about Barnabas is
great.
To me, he's one of the poster men of what does a good man look like? Look at that. Barnabas.
It's what we're hopeful for. That in particular makes me think of what we're hopeful for, not to go off on too much of a tangent, with the Elder Sage Initiative. You know, I mean, Barnabas takes Paul under his wing and shows him the ropes, and then elevates him and takes a position of humility and takes the lower seat.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be an elder sage.
No. But that's just what came to mind.
Yeah.
You know, as maybe it was, obviously it's intentional that switch happens.
Yeah.
Right. And it could have been for a number of reasons, but at any rate, that's what it made me think of. Yeah. So as we look at these questions that are pulled from the Good Man series, one I'd love to touch on as we land the plane on this episode, and then we can get into more of them, in the
Next episode,
next
yeah.
one. Yeah. But you mentioned it earlier. What kind of man do you aspire to become?
Yeah. I we put this question, I think, in here to provoke men. Our heads are down. We're trying to just get through today, get ready for tomorrow, forget about yesterday in some cases, and keep plugging along, And this to me was a chance to kind of get your head up and go, huh, what kind of man do I aspire to be? And
It's a
so
very telling question.
it's a very interesting question. And I think about uh, the guy who the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People,
Stephen Covey.
Covey. One of the 7. I don't remember which number offhand, but it's starting with the end in mind. And so this is a question that provokes
Probably
that.
one, isn't it?
Maybe, but it's that kind of
starting.
question to
Yeah.
to provoke. Well, where do you want to be? Where do you want to end up?
You're right.
What
We're headed out on a
and
journey.
you know what?
If you don't know where you're going, where are you going?
And in that particular in that particular habit, he's saying, he uses the example, I'll never forget, of your epitaph.
Yeah.
The
dash.
What the dash? What do you want to be said at your funeral?
Yeah.
And so I aspire to be the kind of man that, particularly my children, that even when I'm gone, they would say, God, I wish you knew him. I wish you'd met him. I wish you knew my dad. He was...
And whatever they would say.
He was so funny. He was so...
And that could mean a number of things.
Yeah. And he loved so hard that I didn't want for anything.
Yeah.
He recovered ground that he lost when we were younger. Of course, Robin, I want her to go on and on and on as well. But when I think of what would be said about us, who knows if we get 20 more years. I aspire to be a man who created good resources for good men, created good environments for men who believed we could be better because there was better ways than what we had been told or taught. So those are some of the things I aspire to, make a difference, to help and encourage men on a path that somehow, some way, in God's love and greatness, He found me, and I knew I was special, and I knew that there was room for many, many others to find that special. That's just where my heart goes to that question. And what do I aspire? What kind of man do I aspire to be? Man, he was a Christ follower. Man, he loved Jesus. Sentiments like that. Because it is going to be, people are going to talk. People are going to talk, and they're going to say things about you. And I've got, if I have a few fans, that's awesome. But I also know I have my critics, for either parts of my life that I wasn't, in character, or maybe just misunderstood, and not by their standard of some kind, what I lined up with what I aspired to be. But lastly, I would say the last thing I would answer that with is, I aspire to be the kind of man that Jesus says, "You're here. It's so good to see you. Well done."
Yeah.
well done. Well done.
Mm-hmm. It's good, man.
Yeah.
Keep saying that. Unironically.
Yeah.
Saying
Yeah.
that.
How does that feel? It's a profound question. And I hope every man in the Good Man series can, because whatever you set out there in the answer of that question, whatever that is, it's not just can be true, right?
Yeah.
This is the steps. These are the steps
Yeah.
that need to be taken so that it will be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the question and where you went with it, and thank you for sharing that, especially the way that you did, vulnerably. Um, I like the direction that you went with it in your response, because you're right, man. If you're on a journey, you have to know where you're going. And if you're a Christian, you know where you're
Yeah.
headed, right? None of us is immortal in this form.
Right. But we're
And
all
so
as C.S. Lewis, we're all immortals.
we are walking
know?
around, interacting with
That's
each
right.
other.
Yeah.
But in the context of, our life, it's great to look ahead. And I don't think it's morbid in any kind of way. It's a reality, right? I mean, so look ahead to where you want to end up. Okay. And so I love that you brought it that way. Maybe we might even have to reword this a little bit, or do a supplement of some kind,
A parentheses of sorts.
an
sure.
addendum,
Yeah.
right? But when I think about folks talking about me, I hope it's a big party, because I'll be at a big party.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that comes to mind, that I hope is said would be, he discovered love and invited others on the journey to it.
Yeah.
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 So that's what I want to do.
This question is, I hope it hits every man that has to stop and consider it. It taps something in you.
Yeah.
It tapped something in me.
Sure.
That we don't often get to talk like this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't often have permission
Mm-hmm.
to share what we want, what we hope,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're hopeful to hear or to be said.
Mm-hmm.
And and the beauty, I think lastly, in the epitaph, in the memorial services and stuff like that, right? Those are wonderful places to acknowledge and stuff. But we've had some friends even recently. I think about our conversation this morning about our friend Jason, and when he says, and with the same kind of tapping into something deep, when he says to us, "No, you guys saved my life."
He stood in my doorway a couple of weeks ago and he said, "You guys, you saved my life. You know that, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Thanks, buddy." And he's like, "No, I mean it."
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's just
What an honor.
I would aspire to that.
Right.
And so I'm so, it's so honoring, right?
Very much so.
To be able to hear some pieces or tastes or bits of that along the way. And I think it's not why we aspire to be a good man, but it is the benefit. It's the benefits of being a good man, that you will impact others for the goodness of the kingdom. Introducing, I love what you said, who found love,
invited others to do the same.
Introduced and invited others to the same. So yeah, this will be I'm glad we only did one question. There's a couple others. I'm like, all right, I'd be a mess for a few more of these. So
that'd be
this
all
is
right.
Good. We'll call it a day.
It'll be okay.
But the Good Man series, you can find it up at thegoodmanseries.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you want to kind of give us your name. We want to know who's tapping into that. So
it literally takes like 10 seconds to create,
so that we can
login.
encourage you and the journals and that are there, the leaders' guides, the equipment you need to run a weekly gathering, or even the equipment that you need to run a weekend away with 5, 6, or 25, 26, however many.
We'll help you do it.
It's all on there. Josh, who's been on the show, is our Allies coordinator, Allies director. He and Andy will absolutely help you be equipped, so that you can be the encouragement that you want to be using the Good Man series. So Right Now Media, all some other possibilities for streaming, and and we'll see you next time. We'll see you next time as we continue our series on exploring more with the Good Man series. We'll see you next time on Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoe.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoe on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoe on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.